We're talking about a project that my colleague Andreas and I developed that aims at producing and using in class PowerPoint-based simulations.
A concept that would be very typical of IR and of our teaching, we actually developed a simulation about this concept, would be, for instance, something as diplomacy. Diplomacy, like our everyday conception of that, would be to talk diplomatic to someone, like that you had to be diplomatic in your behavior and so on. To think about or to make that transition to a theory about diplomacy or theories about diplomacy, it's good to probe the practice of diplomacy, because that concept of diplomacy you will actually find in the practice of it, rather than just our everyday notion of what a diplomat does. So what the simulations they do is that they try to simulate these practices for the students.
The PowerPoint presents the students with a scenario, and there's choices that they have to make every once in a while within the scenario, and then as a group they play against the PowerPoint, so every choice has a consequence.
They created these slides where we had to choose, for example, where the location of this meeting would be, what would people be eating.
Students that wouldn't necessarily be prone to participating in a more traditional class-based or literature-based discussion suddenly participate very actively because they enjoy this type of format.
The end goal of all our simulations is to get the students to theorize. And we do that by asking them the question, so what just happened and why did it happen?
So the realist theory would say that it's more a question of power and you have to illustrate your material power, it's about money and armies. Whereas the constructivist would say no, it's more about norms and ideals and how certain things are appropriate, other things aren't.
I don't think we would have delved into this project to the extent that we did without the financial support and also the feedback and help that LTI provided, because we're PhD students, so on the top of our priority list is our own research, and doing these types of projects on the side can be very time consuming. So LTI, I think, really pushed us to go into this and look into it.
I thought it was quite good, but it's important to keep in mind that it's only a simulation.